Hey, Yannis, thanks so much for joining us. Really excited to talk about all the great things happening at BCD in the world of technology. Let's get going.
Super. Great to be here, Andy.
All right. So listen, as I think about your role at the company and thinking about the evolving needs of your customers, maybe what are the top three things that your customers are demanding of you today?
Yeah, so I think, if I think about the top three things, and it's interesting because a couple of these really kind of fit very kind of hand in glove. The first one I think is we're in a very entrepreneurial kind of period in travel management right now. And there's a little bit of this dichotomy of, on the one hand, our clients are asking for open solutions, right? You've got the need to integrate APIs for NDC, APIs for hotel merchandising and retailing, lots of things that are going to help that experience, right? And so we have to be kind of a consumer of all these APIs. We've got to be a publisher of APIs back because they need data and information out of BCD, and they want to be able to integrate all these different third parties into their travel program. So on the one hand, we need to be open. At the same time, we're seeing this kind of trend where you've got a little bit more vertical integration happening. The difference between what is a traditional travel management company and what is online or digital booking technology is starting to blur, right? And so having that kind of end-to-end environment coming together that is both highly integrated, but also flexible enough to be extensible is really, really critical. So I think you've got those two trends of open yet integrated. The third one to me is a little bit of the wild card. And I think, travel technology has gone through already three big evolutions. Mm-hmm. 3 decades ago, it was mainframe technology. 2 decades ago, it was web technology. The last decade has been mobile tech, and now AI's here. Right. And I think the next decade is going to be about how we are all delivering on the promise of AI, not just the vision of AI.
Absolutely.
That's everywhere from engaging travelers to driving automation, processing data, how our systems talk to Sabre systems, right? We're past the decade of APIs. Now we're going to be talking about how our agentic tech talks with your agentic tech and how we collaborate in a much more effective way and innovate at a quicker pace, right? And I think we're just at the forefront of that and what it will bring to our customers.
Absolutely. Boy, you pulled, there's a few threads I want to pull on now.
Please.
So the first thing is the open concept. Yeah. This is something that is very much in our wheelhouse and very aligned to the way we're thinking about our marketplace and how we connect buyers and sellers and third-party providers. And so tell me how that's showing up in your relationship with Sabre today and the ways of working and our promise of being that modular and open marketplace for you.
Yeah, look, I would say, so we have our BCD marketplace, and I would say in many ways, we look at what our partners, our technology partners like Sabre do, and we try and think about how that should be emulated in the TMC space. Sabre's business is very much about connecting publishers of content and data suppliers. And you've got this huge network of TMCs and OTAs and developers that you're connecting. There's got to be rules and to govern all of that. And I think very similar for us, we don't have quite the breadth of the Sabre marketplace, but we've got dozens, if not hundreds, of kind of different third parties that we're weaving in. We've got hundreds of clients we've got to connect. And so for us, it's really critical that we've got a kind of more curated marketplace. We need to know who we're connecting in. We need to understand the rules of the road. And how we're doing that. And now we're starting to take it up. I would say we're almost in our third different iteration. The first one was we just wanted to put something in place and see what stuck. We didn't really know what it would look like. We didn't have a commercial model really in mind. There was a lot of things that we got right, and there was a lot of things we got wrong. For the last 3 years or so, we've really been scaling it up. We're now at 3,000 different implementations globally. We've got about 70 different partners in our marketplace. The next couple of years for us is going to be really much more focused on how we drive those integrations into more bi-directional places, not just a publisher out, but how we're consuming data and information back in and how we're integrating it into our trip source experience. So again, we're really keen on it, but it's early days. But a lot of what we're looking at, I mean, again, Sabre with your Sabre Red apps and those kind of things is integrating at much deeper levels. You've got your development capabilities and APIs and studios, more streaming services. So we kind of look at that and say, okay, well, look, if our primary technology partners are doing this, what can we learn from that and be able to apply it to what's happening in the TMC space?
Yeah, and that's phenomenal. I mean, that drives then a ton of choice for your customers, which I'm sure they value. And I think the ways of working between BCD and Sabre have really kind of gone up a next level in the last several years. The deep integrations that we're talking about in terms of how we're architecting our solutions, how that fits into that marketplace that BCD operates has been a game changer for us. So,
and I would just add, I mean, I think Sabre obviously has a very strategic roadmap. It's really critical for us to understand what you're investing in, your vision, your roadmap. But I think what's really changed in the last couple of years is that collaborative kind of planning and development together. Right. And I see that happening in NDC, where we looked at the Sabre roadmap and we said, yeah, but we really need you to kind of reorient a couple of things, because here's what we're hearing from our clients. Sabre was quick to respond. A few sprint cycles later, we had some incremental capabilities on United that closed a competitive gap, not just for BCD, but for TMCs overall. That was Sabre responding very, very quickly. We're doing the same thing on hotel because Sabre's investing a lot in hotel capabilities. We're trying to match up Sabre development capabilities with BCD development capabilities. So we're moving in tandem. And we're doing the same thing on payments with Confirma as well, right, where we're saying, okay, Sabre, this is really what we need. How can you get this prioritized? As soon as you build it, we'll deploy it. So there's the regular published roadmap, and then there's how you're adapting that to what we can kind of really bring to market. And I think that's the sign of a really strong, much more evolved partnership. Absolutely.
We're thrilled about it. We couldn't ask for a better collaborator and partner in that. So thank you very much. So you touched on a little bit of the AI theme, right?
Yeah.
And how you embed it, where it's being utilized. What's a tangible example that, where that's led to maybe a tangible example in the space of agent productivity or automation that's kind of, in the background, but that drive tremendous value for your operation? And maybe secondly, something that's starting to transform a customer experience.
Yeah. So in those two examples, from a productivity perspective, we have roughly a 50-50 mix of what comes to our call centers via email and what comes from voice. And so when we look at email, there's a huge opportunity for us to leverage AI to automate and streamline the email process. So that manifests itself in a couple of different ways. There's some very simple low-hanging fruit. There's a lot of email that we get that's everything from spam and junk and just thank you notes that don't ever really need to get to an agent. There are some low-hanging fruit of things that we think AI today can address and answer without any agent intervention. Resend an invoice, resend an itinerary, some cancellation scenarios. And then there's some things that we deliberately want to make sure that we keep an agent in the loop for many different reasons. Their expertise, their review, kind of co-management of that email, right? And that might be trip proposals or things that are much more complicated, where the AI might do 3 or 4 steps, and then the agent will pick it up on step 5, 6 to 20, right, whatever it might be. So we're starting to put that in place. We have about 80% of our primary kind of email system now with AI enablement. We're starting to put in the first kind of level bots in place, and I think we'll have a pretty significant footprint this year to be able to do kind of deploy that. On the traveler experience side, right now we've really started to kind of partner versus build in that space. Mm-hmm. So we've got a partnership with a company called Skylink as one example. What we're really keen on in that Skylink integration is Skylink's consuming many of our APIs on things like how we do sort and policy and P&R formatting. Because what we said to Skylink and what we think is really valuable is let them focus on what they're great at, which is that AI engagement with the traveler, leverage our systematic capabilities that we use for trip source and our agent tools, where we've already coded in our systems what's in and out of policy, right, what that P&R format should look like, what information you need to collect at the point of sale. So we can have consistency with the traveler, whether they book in trip source, whether they engage with Skylink, or whether they call an agent. We've got that same intelligence layer ubiquitously deployed.
So as you're deploying these solutions and you're innovating at pace and trying to determine when and where customer behaviors might change, including where you use third-party partners, Tell me about how you're approaching scalability, reliability, security, because that's kind of table stakes.
Yeah.
But as the innovation is kind of ramping up, you have to keep an eye on that as well. Give me some perspective on that.
Yeah, so I think we look at it at two levels. Like, first of all, I would say we look at our own internal solutions, right? And we've moved now the majority of our systems to being cloud native, scalable architecture that we can quickly scale up. We can scale down if we need to. We've got a lot more kind of system monitoring and information in place that helps us really govern and assess how we're doing. And that's scalability, that's security, and we're able to kind of leverage what our cloud partners, we partner a lot with Amazon and AWS, what they can deliver for us in that front. The second thing is, though, again, we've got to connect to our partners, right? I mean, we're not Sabre, right? And so we need to make sure that we are connected to partners that have access to those airline content, that hotel content, globally, at scale, quick transaction processing, low latency, high reliability. We're only as good as the foundational systems that we're built around. And so one of our kind of principles is, well, really two principles. One, we want to make sure that we're deploying the best of what our partners have, right? Not the average.
Right.
And I think, again, that comes into our partnership with Sabre as you're releasing new capabilities for hotels. Not every hotel might be at the same level of connectivity in with Sabre. That's okay. But I don't want to go to the average. I want to go to the best. And we're going to deploy what you can do best. And then the second thing is, we need to be at least as reliable as the underlying connection. So if Sabre's got, 5.9 reliability, I need to make sure that my system is not less reliable than that. We need to make sure that we're kind of complementing that. So, for us, that's a challenge because, in our heart, we're not as kind of a technology pedigree that Sabre is. So we're, coming up our maturity curve as we think about the level of engineering and architecture we need to put to our systems such that, we're making sure that we're at least as reliable and scalable as the parties that we're working with.
Makes a ton of sense. And look, we're proud to play that role for you and take on that responsibility with a great sense of accountability. So happy to have that partnership. And thanks so much for spending the time with us today.
Absolutely. It's a great partnership. And thank you.
You bet. Thanks.